But welcome everyone. Oh, there we go. Welcome everyone to our October monthly meeting. We are super excited because we have Nef joining us from Screencastify. So we're gonna kick it off with a fun little, tonight's agenda. We're gonna kick it off with tonight's agenda. I've been in meetings all day.
Yeah, really. Holy cow.
So we're gonna do a quick welcome, which Karen put together a fun Would You Rather. So I'm excited for that. And then we have our amazing guest speaker, Nef from Screencastify. Then we're gonna do our mini town hall because after our last town hall, it was requested that we continue this on a monthly basis. The Google product team loved all of the information we gave to them last time. And so each month we'll focus on a different app. And then we will talk about upcoming events. And as always, you have Karen, Stacy, and me on here. All right, Karen, do you want to take it away?
Surely.
Yeah.
So it's a little Halloween theme because we're so close and it's one of my favorite holidays. So we're just going to use the chat. We're going to keep it simple and just, would you rather be a werewolf or a vampire? And then just tell us why you chose what you chose. What is it that you like about what it is? Getting vampires. I am in the vampire club for sure. Yes. All right. Because of Brad, I get it.
Is it werewolf with an E or an A?
W.
Yeah, it's W-E. I did it both ways.
Awesome. Werewolves, I think it's even. Wow, we were really split down the middle. Twilight fans, but vampire and werewolf right down the middle.
I like it. Collins for the win. I love it.
I have to be a wolf because we're the all of wolves at my school. So if I don't choose wolf, I'm not being loyal.
Oh, there you go. I am a vampire. That was
all right.
Next one. We have two. So this is a fun one. Would you rather be stalked by Freddy or?
Oh my God!
I'll give you all nightmares. Then I will definitely tell you I am Jason. There's no way I want somebody making me sleep less than I already do.
I'm already hiding underneath my bed.
It's okay if you haven't seen them. A lot of people have it. My husband had these. I haven't seen either of them. That's well, Freddy's in your dreams, so you don't want him chasing you.
I haven't seen either because I'm the biggest chicken in the planet.
Oh, yeah, Jason, maybe you could take him. All right, we have one more to play, a fun one. Would you rather have Skittles on the left and M&Ms on the right?
That's a tough choice. How could you? Skittles, chocolate.
And it's not, Halloween's not my favorite because of the candy, I promise. But it would definitely be M&Ms. For me, both. Yay!
Oh my God.
You cannot mix them at the same time. Two totally different flavors.
I love them both. Good job. Shannon, I am down with that. Die Hard and then.
That's so fun.
Yes, Mel, good girl.
Little sweet and sour.
Okay, I like that one. That was fun and could be done with most kids. So thank you, Karen, for kicking us off with a nice Would You Rather. And Shannon, I'm super worried for you. I've got major issues with you mixing M&Ms and Skittles. That's me.
Mixing's good.
We're gonna pass the stage up to Nef now and share about Screencastify. Do you want to share?
Yeah, that would be awesome. I am going to share my screen here.
There we go.
So thank you so much for having me initially. It is awesome to get an opportunity to talk to you guys. As Becky said, I work at Screencastify on the educator growth team. And prior to joining the Screencastify squad, I taught in Miami, which is where I'm from, and also here in Chicago, which is where I am now. So I like to say that I've taught everything that is not STEM. So I've taught civics, I've taught 8th grade language arts, I've taught 11th grade African American literature, and tons of other things kind of in between. So obviously bring some of that to my work and educator growth, and kind of think about what I did for my kids, what I wish I could have done for my kids, and how technology might help us bridge that gap. So one of the things that I love to talk about is kind of fostering student voice, and I'm hoping that we can do that tonight, particularly in conversation with our newest product, which is Screencastify Submit. For some of you guys, you might know us as the Chrome extension that you use to record your instructional videos, right? Like we kind of live to the right of your address bar, you click on that arrow, you create a video, it's saved to your Google Drive, and that might be the only thing that you do with Screencastify, which is absolutely awesome. But starting in March, we kind of realized that there was this void, right? That like there was a lot of asynchronous instruction that was coming from teachers and them creating videos, but if you didn't have an opportunity to meet with your students over a Google Meet or a Zoom call, then how did you hear from them, perhaps in an asynchronous format? So our answer was Screencastify Submit, which we think is the easiest way for you to request videos from anyone. So it was originally created with students in mind, but there are tons of use cases that extend beyond student voice as well. But we'll talk a little bit about student use cases. So a quick roadmap of our time tonight, and I definitely will have you guys out of here in time to have this awesome town hall, which I'm excited to sit in on. But a couple of things that I just want to do. So the first thing is I just want to make sure that we're on the same page about how we define student voice, right? I think that in a lot of ways over the past couple of years has been something that as educators we all strive for, but it can become a little bit buzzwordy. Like what I think student voice is might not necessarily been what other people think student voice is. And then also, how can Submit, this new product, kind of help us easily capture student voice? Because if we're being honest with ourselves, even if we have noble intentions and we want to offer opportunities for students to speak, if it's not easy, we can't do it, especially when you guys have 1,000,001 things that you are doing. And then the other thing is like, what are some tangible assignment ideas that you can implement tomorrow? I hate going to PDs that are so nebulous and you're like, okay, that was great. And it sounds great, but like, what do I do with this, right? So like, check me at the end. If you leave here and you're like, Neff, I still don't know how I can use Submit tomorrow, then I've not done my job in the 30 minutes or so that we spent together. So before we get started, I kind of just want to establish like a baseline, like how do you define student voice? And if you like want to use the chat box, that's awesome. Of just like, when you think about student voice, how do you define it? So maybe let's do like a minute or so and like kind of gather some answers and see where we're at collectively. And we'll see if that jives with like kind of the definition that I set out before I got here today. Student sharing, for sure, has to be a component of student voice. Choice, absolutely. Those things are inextricably linked. Opportunity to share their personality, oh yeah, right? Like if students are speaking but it's robotic, that probably is not authentic student voice. Being able to share how they like, absolutely, without worrying about judgment, without having that anxiety that might kind of go around with that. Giving students a say, absolutely. Stacey, do you mean the Urban Debate League?
Sorry, sweetie?
Do you mean the Urban Debate League? Was that the UDL?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Universal Design for Learning.
Okay. Yep.
I was listening to a Twitter chat today, and they were just like, "Don't say learning style. No such thing. It's Universal Design for Learning." You know,
yeah.
It's very cool. I was like, "Oh, what a good way to phrase that." Not the UDL, but it was a good way to point that out. That we all share all our learning styles, and Universal Design for Learning helps us access that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, cool. I think that actually jives pretty well with what I'm thinking. And I actually am going to turn on the closed captions here, if that's okay. Easy way to make it slightly more accessible. So student voice, and this definition comes from Bill Palmer, who wrote an entire kind of study on this and is much smarter than I on the topic. And I will give a link to this slides presentation. I know somebody just requested access. So if you would like to kind of dive into that study, then by all means, I definitely encourage you to do so. So one of the things that he said, and I've kind of like bolded the things that I think really align with what we've talked about. It's like about students being able to give their input, about students knowing their expertise, which I think is like something that we often overlook a little bit, right? Like students being able to articulate, this is what I'm good at, this is not where I'm good at, and this is how I want to grow. Their opinions, their ideas, and then also participating in conversations, whether those are small group conversations or larger whole group conversations, and having the opportunity to shape curriculum around like what types of books they read, what types of activities they engage in, and around school norms and policy. As teachers, obviously, we are experts on what happens in our school buildings, but our students are also really, really big experts on what's happening in their school buildings, what's happening in their classrooms. And student voice means that we elevate those ideas and that we give power to those lived experiences. So the way that I think about it is that student voice is both classroom discussions and presentations, right? And sometimes, admittedly, I can leave it there as an educator, right? Like it's like I have given my students the opportunity to discuss, I've created space for presentations, and I've done nothing else. Therefore, I've amplified student voice. But if we want to authentically engage with student voice, it's also student input, whether that be harsh or positive. It's also surveys. It's also a legitimate commitment to including student thoughts and ideas, right? And that doesn't mean I hear you and I move on with my life. It means that I hear you, I reflect on it, and I think about how that changes the practices moving forward, right? It would be the same as having this town hall at the end of the day, giving that product to the Google Slides team and them saying, thank you so much, guys, we're going to do absolutely nothing. Like, how infuriating would that be, right? And we have to think about how we give opportunities for our students to give feedback that is heard. And it doesn't necessarily mean that everything that they say we immediately make changes based off of, but that we legitimately think about. So you might say, okay, Neff, like this is great, but what the heck does this have to do with Screencastify Submit? And I think it actually has a lot to do with it, because what we think about at Screencastify, and one of the cool things about our company, is about 50% of the people who work with us are former teachers. So that means that when we think about developing products, we are doing it from the lens of being former educators and thinking about what impacts students. So we have an opinion pedagogically about what education is, and this product is our response to that. So Submit is our new assignment creation tool that allows you to easily request videos. And I've taken a few screenshots of what it looks like to actually create an assignment. The first thing that you do is you select a recording type, and you start by saying, what do you want your students to record? Is it a webcam assignment where you want to gather their student reflections, gather their ideas, and kind of provide some ideas for discussion? Or is it this screen recording idea where you have the opportunity to have students make their proposals, to share their learning, to voice their opinions? And what I think screen recording is for students is this idea to like kind of make learning demonstrative. Especially since students are doing things digitally, we want to give them the opportunity to talk about things digitally too, right? So imagine how powerful it is for a student to be able to show their work on screen, talk about that work, and walk you through what their thinking and their design process actually is. And something really cool that we actually have not announced yet, so this is actually like top secret information, is that a third recording type is happening as well, that will come out in the next couple of weeks that will allow students to record their webcam and screen at the same time. So similar to what you guys were able to do at Screencastify Record. So I like to stop here for a second and kind of say like, okay, so like, what is the point, right? Like you guys are probably all meeting synchronously with your students in some capacity over Google Meet, over Zoom. It's like, I could just have conversations with them then. Why the heck am I waiting to have conversations with them over this format? And regardless of like whether you use Submit or not, like why would you have conversations over video? And this is actually something that I feel really strongly about. I was an educator on the South Side of Chicago, so there were significant barriers to me being able to meet with my students, being able to talk with them. And one of the conclusions that I have come to is that when we allow students to kind of engage on demand, that it creates this inclusive environment. Regardless of bandwidth, regardless of a student background, they get the opportunity to kind of share their voice in a time that is most comfortable for them. It also provides this enduring aspect. Like if we didn't record this video and it was just kind of what we were able to do in this 30 minutes, it's so fleeting. Like we have this amazing conversation about student voice and then nobody else gets access to it, nor do the people in this conversation get an opportunity to go back and revisit it. So that's kind of that rewatchable aspect of it. But then we also get to do things around access. Like we get to have closed captions. Like imagine how awesome it would be if you're teaching in front of your class and you have the opportunity to provide for accessibility. So I like to think about what can we include when we make education on demand? Who can we include and what can we include? And I think that's where Submit kind of like falls in and why we feel so strongly about this product. So off the soapbox, what's the next step of using Submit, right? So the next thing that you do is you kind of define the parameters of the discussion. And I like to think about it that way because it's not just a name, it's kind of you defining for the students what you guys are going to talk about. What's the goal of your discussion? And the other cool thing is once you create a title in Screencastify Submit, we actually create a folder in your drive with that title. So that means whenever a student presses submit, those videos are saved in your Google Drive. You don't have to hunt that student down to get it from their Google Drive or anything like that. You have a folder within your Google Drive that is only the videos from that assignment. So imagine like the organization of like, these are period one's reflections, these are period two's reflections, or however you want to organize it, we kind of do that on our end for you. That's one less thing that you have to worry about. And then obviously you can provide instructions. One of the cool things about instructions that like I geek out over, which is such a small thing, but they actually recognize emojis and recognize hyperlinks. And I love just like throwing like a quick star, a quick heart in there to kind of like personalize the assignment beyond just like a block of text. So if you too are like a geek like me and get excited over like a simple emoji, then that's something that you can throw in those instructions as well. And then finally, we have some settings, and we actually were in conversation with a ton of teachers since March of last year about what settings would be most helpful for them. And what we landed on was first assignment access. So there are 3 different assignment access features, and that kind of determines who can submit a video. So you can make it so that anyone with the link can submit an assignment. It can be anyone within your domain. So if you wanted to lock it down only to your district, you also have the opportunity to do that. And you also can select multiple domains. So if you wanted it to be folks at your school, folks at the neighboring school, and have an assignment like that, we definitely allow for that. And then we also have 3 sections for video privacy. So either students can view all of the videos, including the ones that they've made, students can view only their own videos, or you can always lock it down to students can't view any videos, including their own. And some teachers have used that as an assessment tool, particularly in foreign languages, right? Like you want students to be able to share their voice and complete the assignment, but you don't necessarily want them to have access to the video at least right away. And we also make allowances for that. And of course, the all-important email notification, if you kind of want to make sure that there are no emails coming in, you can turn those off. But if you are wanting to get notified every time, then you have the opportunity to do that as well. So then the question becomes, all right, cool. This is how Submit works. Cool. How do you implement Submit to encourage authentic student voice, right? And I heard Karen say something probably about 20 minutes ago. It's like, it is not about the tool, right? Like it is about the learning that we can actually provide for students. And in some ways, we actually do ourselves a disservice and our students a disservice when we introduce too many tools, right? So you have to have a pretty compelling reason why you want to introduce something new to your students tomorrow, or new to your colleagues if you are in a position where you are kind of recommending things to folks who are looking at you for guidance. And I guess these would be the ways that I would think about, okay, is it worth it? Is this something that is actually going to push student learning, that is going to get things better off? And this is how I think about really cool ways to use Submit. So the first one, kind of going back to our definition of student voice, is like, how can we use this tool to gather student input, gather student opinions? And I think it starts with kind of just like being real with ourselves, right? Like school is going to look different for a while. Even if things kind of progress or there's a vaccine or whatever the case may be, we still know that the relative normal that we had in February of last year probably is quite a ways away. So while we're kind of in this quasi-virtual weirdness that's happening, how can we give students an opportunity to weigh in on the things that can be changed? So some of those questions might look like creating an assignment that asks your students, what did you think about that new classroom tool, Google Forms? And maybe that is the way that you talk to your students and you say, look, I've implemented 5 technology tools, but I know that we really only have the capacity and the bandwidth to continue with 2 of those tools. I want your input so that you can tell me which ones you liked in a more qualitative way, instead of just like a survey that's just like, I liked it, I didn't. No, tell me why you didn't like it. Is it something that is wrong with Google Forms, or is it something about the way that I implement it, right? What did you think about our new virtual recess? For some of you guys that might be working with elementary kiddos and like trying out new brain breaks and trying out new things, all the way down to really, really deep conversations. And that might be where you use that assignment access where only you and the student have access to that video. When you ask them questions around, did you feel safe in our classroom? And invite your students to say, no, I didn't, or yes, I did. And this is also where I feel really strongly about asking students questions of this capacity, kind of in an asynchronous format. I kind of think of if my partner would have come in and say, hey, are you feeling good in our relationship? It's like, whoa, don't put me on the spot. Give me a few seconds to think about that so I can give you legitimate feedback. And sometimes that's what we get from kids as well, that we actually get more robust understanding of where they're at if we give them the opportunity to think a little bit before they provide that feedback. And that's kind of cool about submit assignments. They can be open for as long as you'd like. So if you want to have a submit assignment open for the entire year, that's just like feedback from Ms. Dukes, then that can be open and kids can kind of pop in and pop out at any point to give their input and give their opinions. The other thing that you can do is kind of just like honor student expertise. Realize that our kids are experts on a lot of things. It might be that they're experts on their own lived experience, or they actually are, right? They could be experts on the neighborhood, and they also could be topic experts, right? Like I have taught kids in English who like are sometimes better at different grammatical rules than I am. And I'm just like, okay, like you go ahead and tell me kind of like what you know. So that could look like an introduction. And I know that we are getting a little bit farther in the school year, that maybe you're like, I know my kids, but like what other aspects can you challenge yourself to learn a different aspect of them? Like, even if it's like, hey, introduce me to your pet, introduce me to your sibling, anything that might give you another end and start to build that culture or continue to build that culture. It also can look like assessments. It can look like assignment explanation. So I've created this piece of work, and this is me explaining to you how I went about doing this. One of the things that I would always say was, I knew that certain students, particularly because there was a big push when I worked here in Chicago around getting students prepared for the ACT. And some students would consistently score high, and it's like I would give them the multiple choice assessments as I was asked to do. And it's like, did they score highly because they're great test takers? Did they score highly because they actually understand the standards? But like often it was in having conversations with kids that I could understand where their thinking was coming from and whether or not they actually needed a little bit more help. So I think that there is so much value in getting explanations from students around what they can do, why they can do it, and how they're thinking. And it also might be like student choice. Like, it's like, hey, we're running Genius Hour, and I want you guys to create something. And every Friday, check in with me on this submit assignment and tell me what you created, why you created it, how it went. And the other cool thing is that submit is actually compatible with mobile phones for our webcam assignments. So I think that it also, and that's without students downloading any sort of application. They simply click and record. So that gives them the opportunity to take you to places that they would not normally have been able to take you to. So with their permission, giving you like a tour of their home, cooking a favorite recipe that means a lot to them or their family, walking you around the neighborhoods. I was fortunate to share a neighborhood with my students, but still learned a lot about like what restaurants they liked and all those types of things. And I could go to that restaurant and then bond over it with them and say like, yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much for the recommendation. conversation. And I think that obviously there is a lot that is going wrong, gestures broadly at the world, but there is some things that we can get out of this. And some of that might be connection with students in ways that we might not have thought to do prior to this. And giving them the opportunity to show us around their worlds might be one of the things that we really can do to honor who they are, not only as students, but who they are as people. And I think the other thing is that it makes way for conversations when we kind of like use a tool like Submit. A lot of times we have these conversations that are like based off of our classroom. So even when we bring people from the outside in, it's like, hey, can you get to X in X place at X time? And it's like a lot of times people don't get the opportunity to be a part of the conversation just because of logistical issues. But making it virtual allows us to engage your community. So is there a baker who is doing awesome things for the community who can't make it to your Zoom call but can record a 5-minute video, who couldn't have made it to your brick and mortar classroom but can be a part of the Submit assignment? Are there conversations around curriculum that you can have with parents, that you can have with colleagues? Are there talks with parents that you can have? One of the things that is crazy is that there are so many parents who are doing so much right now. I don't have any kids, and to be quite honest, I actually have reflected that I am so happy to not have kids because I can't imagine what I would have done during this time. But I talk to my sister all the time, who is working from home and the parent of 4 children that range from 6th grade to a toddler. He's 3. And she has had demands from the 3 oldest kids, teachers, around like, hey, can you come to a parent-teacher conference? And she wants to come to every single one. She wants to do a really good job. But the reality is she can't, right? She just can't. And giving parents an opportunity to say, hey, I'm trying to help my kid get into Google Classroom. I want to show you what's on my screen. And you need to, and like, can you help me kind of navigate this and see what it's like, is something that some teachers are doing with Submit. There's an open Screencastify Submit assignment that parents can be a part of at any time, whether that's 9 o'clock at night when she's finally put all 4 kids to bed and she has the opportunity to breathe for a second, or if it's in the morning when they're like eating breakfast. She can engage in a time that works for her, regardless of whether or not that might work within the confines of the school day. And then conversely, I know as educators, you guys have 1,000,001 things to do, and it might be disruptive to your life if a parent calls you at 7 o'clock because you're dealing with your kids or you're dealing with your life. And this kind of format allows parents to submit when it makes sense for them, and then you respond when it makes sense for you, right? Because we all are kind of living in this time where we're trying to juggle multiple responsibilities. So I want to pause for a second before I get to that slide. And I want to show you just a little bit about Screencastify in action, because I think that'll also respond to Marilyn's question. So this is the Submit dashboard, and these are all of the assignments that I have. And I'm actually going to paste a link to the Submit dashboard in our chat. So if you are somebody who's just curious and wants to take a look, please feel free to do so, or at the very least save it so that after our talk today, you have the opportunity to do that. So one of the cool things is that the only thing that someone will need to do is be logged in with a Google account. So they don't need to log in with their student's account. They don't need to do anything. They log in with their own Gmail or whatever it is that they have. And it looks exactly like what I've shown. So if I'm creating a webcam assignment, I'll click next. And then let's just create a generic assignment. So like, what do you plan to have for breakfast tomorrow? And this might actually be something I would deploy to actual kids, maybe as like an icebreaker, or something to like kind of do that. And then I can kind of create instructions, and maybe for this one I wouldn't, but let's throw an emoji here. I am agnostic to time, so I can have a burger at 9 a.m. So that's probably what I plan to have tomorrow. And then I can go ahead and select next. So for assignment access, if I wanted everybody to be able to access it, I might say anyone with the link, or like I said, it'll be anybody in my organization. And it actually will autofill your domain name. So here it'll say screencastify.com, but then if that's not the domain I'm in, I can go ahead and X that out or add additional ones. But let's say anyone with the link. And then let's activate social learning here. So let's say that students can view all of the videos. And obviously this is something that's existing within Google Drive. So if you find out that like students are abusing the privilege and there are things that you want to kind of hold back, you can always go back and change the assignment access of that folder. So this is not binding forever. You can say that students view all videos and then change your mind. Or you can say that students can't view videos and then change your mind later. That's okay. And then let's go ahead and select next. So this is the magic part. Now I've generated this link. We did that on our end. It took a couple seconds. And then you can copy it, or you can also share it to Classroom. So for my Classroom folks, you can go ahead and share that link to Classroom as well. And then let's throw it into our browser just so that you can see what it looks like on the student end. And you can also press this preview button to see what it looks like for students as well. So what students see is, first they'll be asked to log in with their Google account, and that will identify who is submitting what. But I'm already logged in, so it'll show that. So what they see is the assignment title, and they'll see a record button. I do not need to have the extension installed to be able to be a part of this. And I actually will send this link over in the chat, and you guys can do it as well. Since this is a webcam assignment, it also means that you can pull that assignment up on your cell phone and start talking. So let's pretend that we wanted to record. Students will see a countdown. And then decide they either want to stop recording, and they also can start over as many times as they want, which I think is pretty cool to be able to share what they want you to see, rather than it just being like this is what I was able to do in the moment. It's like, no, this is actually my best work. So once they stop recording, they'll get an opportunity to see that and then press submit. That video automatically showed up in my Google Drive. I can share that video to Classroom. And since it says that I can view other submissions, I have this assignment. So no, I can go view other submissions. Right now, there might not be other things in there, but I have the opportunity to view them, comment on them, engage with them in Google Drive in the same way that I would be able to engage with them elsewhere. And then notice, as a teacher, the assignment name is actually going to be the name of the student and their email address for easy identification. So a student won't be able to dupe you and kind of turn in something under anybody else's name, although I doubt that you guys would have students that would do that anyway. But it kind of does allow you, if you have multiple Brians or multiple Kevins, you kind of can like figure out who is who. So that's kind of how submit works. I saw one question come up in the chat that was kind of like, what is the difference between the free version and the unlimited version? And do want to kind of give some credence to that. So like all of our products, including the Chrome extension, we do have a free version of Screencastify Submit. We are committed. Every time we release a product, we have a free version that is usable, that is possible. We understand that not everybody can pay. So the only difference between the free version and the unlimited version is the amount of assignments that you can have open at a time. So what an open assignment is to us is an assignment that is actively collecting responses. So for example, I have a few different assignments that are open here. If you wanted to stay on our free version, all you would do is you would close assignments. So like you could close an assignment and then open a new one. You can close 3. And just because an assignment is closed doesn't mean it disappears from your dashboard. You can go ahead and open that assignment again at any point and be able to kind of switch between and do that completely for free. So that is something that we always have available for you to be able to continue to foster student voice, even if you are not in a position budgetary-wise to upgrade to that unlimited version. And of course, we also have an EDU discount for teachers who are looking to upgrade. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Not only, yes, we are COPA compliant. Across all of our different products, we are COPA compliant. One of the cool things that we do is we actually don't collect any student data whatsoever. That includes record, submit, and edit. So students under 13 can use the products. The only thing that we ask is that there is a designation, like a lot of ed tech tools at the beginning, that ask the student to self-identify about whether they're over 13 or under 13. We will do that once. But even if a student is like 10 and they're like over 13 because I'm big and bad, we never actually collect any data from students. So it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but we do have that one check just to make sure that we're doing 100% everything. So one of the things that I like to think about is like we define student voice at the beginning of our time together, talked a little bit about Submit, talked a little bit about how you might be able to use Submit. And I kind of wonder, like, how can we define success? One of the PDs that I went to kind of early in my career asked me to think about, like, what does a classroom look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like when we actually have authentic student voice, right? So like, I invite you guys, like in the chat, if you're willing, if we are doing a good job at fostering student voice, and that is regardless of whether you use Submit or not, what does it look like for kids? What does it feel like for kids? What does it sound like? How can we look around and say, you know what, I've done it? I'm just like curious to hear what you guys think. Yeah, students feeling comfortable sharing the skill and content, absolutely. Especially if it is something that they were relatively new to, them being able to share it with a peer is pretty crazy cool. Yes, self-advocating meaningfully, absolutely. I think even as an adult, that is something that I struggle with, and I have to be in an environment that I feel like is affirming for me to want to advocate for myself. And asking that of a 12-year-old to have meaningful self-advocacy, that is big. So yeah, that would have me over the moon. For sure. Okay. That makes sense to me. So first thing is I would absolutely love your feedback. There is a submit assignment here that you can use, and I will share the link so that you can do it kind of whenever makes sense. But if you have feedback about today's session and you would feel comfortable doing it over video, I would love to hear what you think and hear how I can improve as a presenter. Or if you have ideas for Screencastify Submit that you want to share in that way, I would love to hear it there as well. And then also just wanted to share a little bit there. So usually what I do, and I believe that we're going to do it this time, is just like a quick check if you would like to hear from me again. And if you want like kind of like instructions for future webinars and how you can engage with us, that would be awesome. You can also stay in touch at Screencastify or at NiftyNef. And get started with Submit. The dashboard is app.screencastify.com/submit. So if you want to bookmark that or kind of like make sure that you have access to it, go ahead. It is completely free to get started. So like go for it. Would love to hear kind of like what you guys think. And I hope to be around for the next few minutes of our time together in GEG. And happy to answer any questions, but also don't want to encroach too much on you guys' town hall. But yeah, I hope to get an opportunity to hear a little bit more about what you guys think about Submit for those of you who this is new to, or at the very least, how you guys are using video to engage with your kids.
Do you mind if I share a quick something on it? So first off, I absolutely love this, and I like that it can go straight to classroom. One thing I noticed as I was going in and like doing my account with Submit, because I work with elementary only, we're an elementary only district, I put that the kids were under 13 and it said that I can't use it. So then I changed it and said they were over 13. And then it said they could. So I don't know if that's, I might have run into one of those weird glitches or.
Yeah, so one thing that's actually kind of like cool to talk about, and I would love to talk to you a little bit more, Becky, about like what actually happened there, because the age of the students that you teach shouldn't matter for your access. But if you identify yourself as a student, so if you sign into Screencastify Submit as a student, you actually won't be able to access or create any assignments. And the reason that we do that is because we don't want students all willy-nilly creating assignments and seeking videos from their peers and actually owning those videos. But it's super possible that you run into something weird. I would love to kind of like see what happened and kind of like put that over to our product manager. But if you say that you are a teacher, you should just say over 13 and then kind of go. But that is one of our checks. If you do say that you're under 13, we assume that you are a student and then we don't allow you to kind of like proceed into Submit to create an assignment. But you still would be able to access an assignment theoretically.
That's what I did. I read it as, are your students over or under 13? And so I said I was under 13. Okay, that's a me issue. Don't say that you're under 13. I'm not. Okay. I'm
Now I'm
excited.
gonna need some ID.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. I like when it's a me issue. So that, no, I'm really excited to showcase this with our teachers, because I like that you can quickly add it to the classroom. And then it said, I just want to make sure I saw that part correctly. So after the student creates the assignment, there's a button for them to then click submit to classroom. So the teacher would then just have to go through classroom to see everything. They don't actually have to open the drive.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, so you would just instruct your students if that's the way that you want things turned in. But yeah, there is a share your classroom button on the teacher side for you to be able to share the link, and then a share your classroom button on the student side for them to be able to share the video.
I like that the interface is very familiar. It's not like it's very similar to the other apps that are for student voice and student video making. So it's very intuitive and easy to use. And the fact that it doesn't need the Chrome extension when it's doing the submit. So very cool.
Yeah, that's the goal. So that's a feedback that I am so important for me to hear. If anything becomes too complicated, then we've missed the mark. So it's cool to hear that that feels like a stripped down kind of user interface and something that's easy to understand. Thank you.
I may have missed it, but is there a time limit on how long the videos can be that the kids create?
Actually, no. So that would be something that you would impose if you like on your students. But we made a decision that regardless of whether you're using the free version or the unlimited version, students can create videos for as long as they'd like. So that means if you are having an end of the year presentation with high school seniors and you want them to create 30-minute videos, have at it. If you want them to create 30-second videos, have at it. There's no limit there.
Okay, thank you.
This is great. Well, thank you so much. Oh, Marilyn, sorry, you just came off mute. Go for it.
I just wanted to say, my favorite part is having everything saved to Drive. So I think we live in our Drive and having to go out and go somewhere else, but I think I just like having everything right there in Drive. So for me, that's something I really like.
Yeah.
Me too. I thought that was way cool.
Dope. Yeah, I live in Drive too. If something exists on my actual computer's hard drive, it's what is that? How am I supposed to get back to that ever?
Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much. And you're welcome to stay on, but I do know it's late. Any other questions or comments, please throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we're gonna switch gears and go into slides.
Yay, thank you. And it's
Yeah,
fun because
thank
we've
you,
been
thank you.
participating in the chat. And so even if we're not talking, we're still typing madly.
Yeah, this is really cool. And for me, I've seen the stuff that Submit came out, but honestly didn't have the capacity to go and learn it on my own. And I feel like tonight I learned everything. I feel comfortable going in trying this on. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, let me share screen again. Let's see. We are going to, I don't actually need to share my screen. I just realized what I'm about to share with you all. You're gonna laugh.
You're going to share the picture of a Google slide.
Of a Google slide. We're gonna focus tonight's town hall on Google Slides. And so in the chat, I'm going to put a link to a form that you can fill out. And you can answer the questions in there about how you're using slides or successes or challenges. But just like with the town hall, if you were able to attend that, feel free to just come off of mute and share how you're using it, what successes you've had, all of that. And I think just for time's sake, we'll spend a few minutes in each area. We started with slides because we feel like it's being used so frequently right now in distance learning. But as far as uses with slides, if you want to, I know now some of you are all filling out the form, so feel free to do both, but come off of chat or come off of mute and I will type away all of our notes, and then I will be sharing our notes with May, who oversees the GEGs, and then she will share them with the product team. So your voices are being heard for sure. But
Yeah,
uses for slides.
slides is the Swiss Army knife of the Google tools, so yay.
I'm writing that. I know for us, we use slides kind of like hyperdocs, but we use them as hyper slides. And so a lot of our teachers use them for their daily assignments. And then it just links all of the activities. Again, being elementary school, we'll start with like ELA. They just go through one slide deck and they're able to go through each of their different activities, and it's linked to everything else. Any other uses for slides?
I also use slides, kind of like a hyperdoc. But what I do is I make it a jigsaw activity where take different topics for the groups to investigate and then break them off into like smaller groups where they investigate that single topic. And then they like make a copy of the slide deck, and then they just answer and respond to the different inquiry prompts. And then they can bring it all back together, and then the whole group has all of that information presented, you know, at the same time.
Oh, that sounds really cool. Okay, I want to see one of these. Melt.
A town hall, that's where we just share our opinions on something, right? I guess that's what a town hall is. You come together, you discuss a topic, you give your opinion.
Yep, and then you share
Yes.
successes and challenges.
Yeah, it's kind of an American term, Mel, like from the early days of setting up communities and things like that. A town hall, people come together and kind of present their concerns and what's happening in their lives.
I just used them this week, actually. My students just finished presenting biography book reports where they dressed up as the person that they reported on. And we did a collaborative Google slide where each student got their own, and they had to include a picture of themselves as that person and then jot down important information about them and any links if they had created any groups. Like one child did Malala, so her organizations. One child did Greta Thunberg, her organizations for protecting climate change. And it was cute that we then posted it on Schoology, which we're supposed to use, so they can all see each other's, their parents can see it. And so everybody could see how the kids looked and what they wrote about. And also if they want to act on any of the activists, they can click on the links that they added to their individual slides.
This sounds so cool. I want to see these.
It's really cute to see that one. Yeah, it's really cute.
Marilyn?
I think, I've been using the Google Slides with the Nearpod add-on. So I think that's like been my, once we went home for COVID, that was like my favorite tool, was creating in Google Slides, but using the Nearpod add-on. So I would say that's probably, and obviously now our weekly slide, like the weekly agenda, I think we're all doing those now. But I also like to create, when I do my inquiry, I'll create kind of a slide deck of the progression of the inquiry, but I'll give them 3 different templates, but they have the same components that they need to. So even though it's like a really minor choice, but they're really choosing their graphic design. But I like to create my inquiries where they have 3 different templates that they feel, most attracted to. So those are, I think, my 3 ways I've been using Google Slides lately.
I love that. I'm gonna, Shannon, I see you. I'll have you go right next. And then we'll open it up for successes and challenges. So feel free to share those out. Go for it, Shannon.
Cool. So I was actually going to go for successes and challenges instead of what I was going to use it for. I use it for what everybody else is using it for too. I really love, and this is so simple and so stupid, but I really love the ruler feature that you can enable on it, and the horizontal and vertical guides, so that if you're like trying to set it up. And I love the page setup, that we can make it a normal 8.5 by 11, piece of paper. Essentially, it makes it so much easier to design because Google Docs is not so friendly with the images. I would say if I had one little gripe, and it's really a small one, there's 2 actually. When I do it in 8.5 by 11, the zoom, like zooming in, is not my favorite. I wish there was like an intermediate zoom. It kind of zooms too far in for me. And then that just might be a user error, to be honest with you. And then the other thing I'd love to see, and I know you can insert audio, but I'd love to see like a built-in, and I'm sure there's like an add-on for this, but a built-in like
oh, totally,
like audio clips that you could pull from. There's so many things. I could go on and on. I love it so much. It's the greatest thing in the world.
Okay, and you bring up a good point too, because like the audio thing that you can add is typically with an extension.
Mm-hmm.
And so keep in mind, like that's not part of the app. So those are things I would like to see. A lot of these extensions become integrated.
Yeah, that's
right.
really good feedback, Shannon. That one is a big call for.
I also would love to see, what I really love is the diagram. I don't think it's used enough. I feel like the diagram feature, insert diagrams, there's so many there, and like, so really kind of maybe elevating that a little bit. It's just so good, guys. It's like their best feature.
Yeah. Jennifer? No, I agree with you. Yeah, go for it.
I have a question regarding slides because I work with the little guys. And so I know you can take a screenshot of what you want and put it on there so that they can't move things. But is there another way to lock down? Because it would be really nice if they would have like a lock feature so that because the little ones, they're clicking all over the place and then they accidentally delete things or they can't find the text box, you know?
Yeah, besides using.
I found it master slides. If you do it in master slides, the little ones don't know how to get into there. And then if you need to insert a text box, do that out of master slides. So that's the only thing that the little ones can type into.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes they even accidentally get rid of the text box and then they don't know what to do.
Yeah, for our littles, we live in the master slides.
Okay, master slides, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But it would be nice if you could lock images.
You know, one more thing that I really, really love about it. Just kidding. I totally lost it, but it will come back. Sorry.
I have a challenge, and this is so ridiculous and not necessary, but I would like to be able to take text and make it curved like you can in a PowerPoint. And you can't do it in drawing. I've tried 1,000 ways and I've looked up every which way. It is not possible, I promise. And if you figure it out, then I'm total user error. But you cannot take text and make it curvy in any way, shape, or form. It has to be straight.
Even when you use word art, right, Becky?
Even when you use word art, it is not possible. And I don't know why this feature that's been in Microsoft since I was born is not available.
Anywhere.
Literally.
Anywhere.
I'm less than 13, so.
I've tried it everywhere. You're right. You cannot do it in any tool. There's no possible way.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can do vertical, horizontal, or vertical type, but that's it. It's as far as you can get.
I have a question, and maybe this is part of a request, but maybe there's a solution I don't know about. Creating an equation, just as simple something, a division or a square root, any sort of, because the add-on's blocked by my district, so I can't add an equation editor.
Ooh,
so I don't know how do we create math questions for kids?
Mel, do you have all the keyboard? I'm asking you because I know you're a math guru, but do you have all the keyboard tricks? Aren't there a bunch of like keyboard things?
Keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like, I just did like Alt V to get like the square root. I mean, like that's like a thing. And then like if you want to do like division, it is like, yeah, you just do insert special characters and you can just search for division and that'll come up. Like, because slides is really annoying for like, yeah, equations. Like you can't, like usually I do this stuff in like, it's awful anyway, the equation editor there. And then screenshot in, but you can, if you're doing like basic stuff like root or like or whatever, I mean, like you can use just those symbols like Shannon just said about just insert special characters, or just use like Alt V for square root, because I just did a whole thing on square roots with my kids and I was just like, guys, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Mel and Shannon, that the insert special characters is people aren't aware that everything is a character in the computer. So your emojis and things like that are actually part of the big book of characters that are available. But that's totally different than being able to use math symbols, which is why that extension is so valuable for math people. So yeah, put that in. That's something that Town Hall is about, because that, being able to do math formulas and stuff, realistically using them, that's good input.
Yeah, Mel, could you tell me what you use and take a screenshot of and then insert? Did you say?
What?
You said,
or more complicated?
It's just
No,
insert, like what Shannon said. If you just
Which
go
one?
to insert, if you just go to in slides, you just insert it, and then
Exactly. And it's
you'll-
part of, like, so you do like control click in the chat
Yeah.
right now. You can pull in an emoji or something like that. It's all part of Unicode. It's all part of the characters
if
that are
you did,
available
like,
to the keyboard.
Would that work for something like quadratics or limits or anything
No,
like
yeah.
that?
So what you're asking is something that is truly mathematically useful. And so, like for the extension, yeah, Equatio, exactly. So what you guys are asking is, hey, Google, how about we build in something like Equatio that's part of the tool? Just like, Play Code's text to slides, it would be neat if that was actually part of slides, not an extension.
Yeah, and Equatio is not great. I put in outside, some of my math teachers just use a equation builder and then they copy and paste it in. Kind of works. Sometimes they have to screenshot it and put it that way. Sometimes it'll allow it to copy and paste depending. So you can play with it. That's a big problem that in all forms of Google, like the math, writing math sentences for sure, properly.
I remembered, y'all. I rememdered. I really love the and you guys have probably seen this on Twitter, but I really love the where you can go from like the slides on the side to grid view. It has changed my life as far as like monitoring work in breakout rooms, and so I think that that's a really wonderful feature as well.
Yes, I agree. That's awesome.
all right. I don't want to cut us off from great conversation. Please fill out the form if you have more things to add. And I didn't follow. I mean, we did follow these. I just didn't go through all of that. We do want to give away some swag. Oh, did we have a form for this?
Here, I put everybody in. Let me put this in the chat and you can share this screen.
Okay.
Since you're already on.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do
Yeah,
that.
definitely. Okay. And then other than that, and I'll pull that back up in just a second.
I think I have everybody in there.
Awesome. Our next meetup is going to be November 4th, October. We didn't add a lot of extra events this month just because it's been crazy. So it will be on November 4th at 7 p.m. We have someone that's going to be coming to present. We'll get more information shared on that later. And then if you have any ideas or you want to present on anything or you would like to see something, just let us know. But we are going to give away some more Google Books.
Google Books. So we have the colors. I have the books. I have the colors. That's what you get to choose.
Are we giving away 3?
That's up to you guys. I just put the wheel in. You can pick as many names as you'd like.
Also, if you don't see your name, let me know.
Yeah, I think they should all be in there when you go to it.
Well, actually, Dr. Dev just joined us.
I just put her in.
You're so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're all teachers.
I'm not crazy, but this list doesn't match who's here.
No, you have to do the link that I put in the chat. The list, the one in the, I could put it in the slide deck. Silly me.
Yeah, put it in because the link I went to, I'm showing, sorry, I'm not even presenting it, but it's showing, I was like, I don't know any of these people.
I think it's showing you, it could be you, it could be you, it could be you, because that's what I put in there.
I just spun an Eric one. And,
I gotta win, that's all I gotta say.
I put in fake names.
Oh my gosh, that's fun. Okay, is it correct now?
I'm trying.
Oh, sorry. Why don't I do you want me to let you? I'm being impatient. I'm bad with my patience.
You go,
That's
girl.
okay.
That's okay, Becky. You be you.
All right, it's good now. Click on this link, I think. The link in the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Underneath, yes, the live.
you-
The
are
other
you-
thing's
are
just,
you-
oh, yeah, that's just a gift. That's not going to do anything for you. You
Okay.
actually have to go to the link.
Oh,
I'm doing it, and if it doesn't work, I'm letting you
okay,
share.
now it's ready to be hilarious. Now
It still says
Okay.
Gabriel and
You
Fatima.
or you.
All right.
I'm not crazy. I know that I said I was under 13 earlier. That was a me thing. This one's not.
We're gonna hand over the reins to Karen.
There you go. Jeez Louise.
I'm gonna get fired. They're gonna withhold my paycheck this month.
I made it complicated.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
kept getting the default names. All right, here
There
we
you
go.
go. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Yes. All right. I got the right names in there. Woo! Dun, 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 dun. Marilyn.
Okay,
Just put in the color you want in the chat.
and your email.
Yeah, and I'll spin 2 more times. Sheila.
Oh, and your color choices are Google Colors, but I'll put them in here just in case.
Yeah,
and
yellow.
then, if you know you put in your right mailing address when you first joined GEG SoCal, that's what we'll be mailing to. Spit it out, Stacy.
Yeah. All right, that's 3.
Jahara, awesome.
Yay.
No, this time. Sorry. But yeah, so our 3 winners, we have Sheila wants yellow. I should write this down. I'm going to end up hanging up and never remember this. The amount of times I have to rewatch just to hear what I said. Sheila would like yellow.
And Marilyn's blue.
Marilyn's blue. And
Johara's green.
Oh, it's green. Okay. And then I'm going to stop recording. Thank you all so much for joining us. I had a great time. I hope you all did too.